Donald Trump met with a probation officer today. That's a real thing that happened. The guy who has a 50-50 shot to become the next president had to check in with a probation officer to argue why he shouldn't go to jail. And on Sunday, Trump held his first large rally since his guilty verdict, where he laid out a detailed policy plan to tackle the nation's challenges. And I'm just kidding, he screamed about teleprompters, batteries, and sharks. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. On Sunday, Trump held his first major rally since his historic guilty verdict on 34 counts of falsifying business records to hide a hush money payment to a porn star during a presidential campaign. And he made sure to talk about the topics that were on everybody's mind.
And by the way, just in case you're wondering, I got no teleprompters, and I haven't from the beginning. No, I got no teleprompter. You know, I pay all this money to teleprompter people, and I'd say 20% of the time they don't work. They don't work. The thing's waving around. They can't tie it a little bit tighter. I'm trying to look at... The only thing that pisses me off are the teleprompters. I went to a boat company in South Carolina. The boat, I said, how is it? He said, it's a problem, sir. They want us to make all electric boats. So I said, let me ask you a question. And he said, nobody ever asked this question. And it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart. He goes, I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight? And you're in the boat, and you have this tremendously powerful battery, and the battery's now underwater, and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there. So there's a shark 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards, or here. Do I get electrocuted if the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery, the boat is sinking? Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, you know, nobody's ever asked me that question.
There's a reason for that. It sounds like... I mean, imagine if he said, you know, that's good, I get this all the time. Giant battery, shark 10 yards away, sure. That sounds like a question from Math for Dummies by Dummies. A boat sinks to the bottom of the ocean, big boat, strong boat, and there's a tremendously powerful battery 10 yards away from the shark. The shark is woke and hates America. The boat is sinking at a rate of 3 feet per second with a battery voltage no greater than 12. At the current rate, will the shark eat you before you're electrocuted, or will Crooked Joe rig the election? Wrong answers only. Also, as much as I hate to say it, I agree with Trump on one thing. I don't like teleprompters. I pay all this money to teleprompter people, and I'd say 20% of the time they don't work. The thing's waving around, they can't tie it a little bit tighter. I mean, if teleprompters were even decent, do you think I'd put up with Cue Card Wally every day?
You're number one, Seth.
You are, Wally. Now, as we explained last week, Donald Trump and his cronies have been complaining nonstop that he is somehow the victim of an unfair legal system supposedly weaponized against him by his political opponents.
How could this happen? This is America. This is democracy. This isn't the Soviet Union. This isn't some banana republic. How can this happen?
This is something you would expect to see in a third world country.
We have to stand up and say we are not a third world country.
I feel like this is even worse than any kind of banana republic or the Soviet Union.
This is tyranny. This is not what's supposed to happen in America.
Would you think this is happening in a third world country? Yeah, you would.
Reminiscent of banana republics or the Soviet Union.
I mean, this is one step away from Alexei Navalny.
You'd think that was the legal system of Venezuela or Iran or some third world country, not the United States of America.
Communist show trial. You know, even North Korea, even the former Soviet Union went to a greater length to create the pretense of fairness.
Why does Stephen Miller always talk like Darth Vader with a mouthful of peanut butter? I find your lack of faith disturbing. Because, you know, if it wasn't for the way he talks, he seems like a real fun hang. Again, as we explained last week, the idea that Trump is a victim of injustice is obviously ludicrous. Trump got more deference and leeway than any criminal defendant in history. Today, for example, he had the chance to make his case to a probation officer who will help determine what sentence he should get.
Trump is scheduled to sit for a virtual interview Monday with a New York City probation officer. He will do it from Mar-a-Lago, we're told, along with his attorney, Todd Blanche.
This probation meeting is to compile all the information that the judge will use in imposing that sentence. I think some of the questions that he'll be asked is, do you understand that you may need to report to me on a regular basis? Do you understand that you will be prohibited from associated with anyone with a criminal record?
The officer will evaluate Trump's level of remorse, his financial background, and mental state, and provide a report to the judge to help him determine the sentence that he will hand down to Trump on July 11th.
Let's make something clear. If a probation officer is basing their sentencing guidelines on remorse, mental state, and character, and the recommendation is a day less than 1,000 years, Donald Trump is getting off easy. And if the probation officer meets with Trump and their takeaway is he seemed really sorry, super sharp, and an all-around good person, that should be their last day at work. Trump should count himself lucky. For example, this seems like an easy question for a presidential nominee to answer.
Do you understand that you will be prohibited from associated with anyone with a criminal record?
But that's everyone he knows. Telling Donald Trump he can't associate with anyone with a criminal record is like telling Andy Cohen he can only associate with fake housewives. What do you want him to do? Make new, normal, non-criminal friends? How's he gonna do that? Join a pickleball league? Hey there. I'm your new pickleball league partner. My name's Donald. You're gonna have to cover most of the court. I'll cover this tiny part right here. Also, I can barely lift a paddle. Here, I'll show you. They want me back, you guys. Anything I said about the graphics department earlier in the show, I take it all back. So Trump can't associate with anyone with a criminal record. You know who this is really bad news for? His family. Now he's gonna have to spend more time with them. Melania's probably so worried about this, she's gonna knock over a liquor store in broad daylight just to have a rap sheet. Mel, I know why you did what you did, and it's very hurtful to me. Because now that you got arrested, we can't associate, Mel. Who do you think I should associate with instead? Stormy Daniels, very funny, Mel. Ha ha, Mel. You and your classic sense of humor, Mel. Nothing in this probation interview will be good for Donald Trump. According to the New York court system, the pre-sentence report is a chance for the defendant's lawyer to say good things about the defendant, like that the defendant is in a counseling program or has a steady job and takes care of an ailing family member. The pre-sentence interview is a chance for the defendant to try to make a good impression and explain why he or she deserves a lighter punishment. I have no empathy for Donald Trump's lawyers, but I do appreciate that that is not a light lift. I mean, he's not in counseling. He does not have a steady job. No one believes he would ever care for an ailing relative. Although he'll probably try. This is my son, poor little Rudolph. Poor little Rudy, poor little Rudy. 6 years old, but he has that weird aging disease from Kimberly Akimbo. So sad. And he hasn't been able to leave the house since the tragic shark electrocution. Shark electrocution accident, it cost him his neck. We spent so much surgery on the neck, we can't afford to buy him new pants. He still wears his toddler khakis. So Trump probably had to talk about all the criminal associates he has. He also probably had to discuss the 3 other indictments he's facing, all the other fines he's been hit with, not to mention the fact that he repeatedly badmouthed the entire process and has repeatedly threatened to get revenge, like in this recent interview with, for some ungodly reason, Dr. Phil.
There are headlines out there that say, when you win your second term, that you are going to make the people that have come after you pay. Retribution and revenge.
Yeah.
I think you have so much to do, you don't have time to get even. You only have time to get right.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
And sometimes revenge can be justified.
So he gets to meet with a probation officer and just pretend like he's a different guy? Also, killer work from Dr. Phil here.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that.
It does.
It does. Thanks, Doc. I'd say I can't believe this guy's a doctor, but the other guy was fully the president, so what the hell? Everybody gets to call themselves whatever they want from now on. Hey, everybody. Hello. I'm Captain Seth Meyers of the USS This. Generally speaking, I don't think probation officers respond well to the phrase, sometimes revenge can be justified. I feel like after you say that, the only correct response from a probation officer is, I think I have what I need to make my recommendation. Lock up, throw away a key. Again, Trump's getting all the benefits and protections of our system, especially when compared to those subject to racist mandatory minimums who tend to get so much longer sentences for much less. All Trump has to do is take accountability and express some remorse, but he can't even bring himself to do that, which is why he is now facing the very real prospect of jail time.
Well, the first thing they're going to do is look at what probation recommends in their report. They will go through that process with him, and then they will come up with their recommendation.
And the report will generate a recommendation?
Yes.
Another thing the judge looks at is comparators. So they look at other sentences that other like defendants have received. I looked at this. I co-authored a white paper for the Brookings Institution, and we looked at hundreds of other sentences. And
coming out of New York?
Coming out of New York for the exact same crime. And always with a bump up to a felony in this case. And people get prison terms, not just, even first-time offenders, even, for the same type of crime, they will get a prison term.
That's right. People actually get prison terms for this crime, even first-time offenders in the same state. Now, I have no idea if that means Trump will also go to jail. I'm certainly skeptical. But if he was anyone else who behaved the way he did, he probably would. And that is our two-tier justice system at work. Donald Trump is likely not going to have to sleep on the bottom bunk, chit-chatting with his cellmate after lights out. What are you in for, Fish? Well, it's a pretty boring story, falsifying business records to cover up a payoff to a porn star, lest the American people find out about my infidelities / weird penis in the days leading up to the election. That is a boring story. So who knows if Trump will go to jail, but for what it's worth, Trump says he's totally fine with it.
The judge could decide to say, hey, house arrest or even jail.
It could.
How do you face what that could be?
I'm okay with it. I don't know that the public would stand it, I'm not sure the public would stand for it.
I don't know. Judging from how they reacted to your trial, no one would give a shit. Even your hardcore supporters couldn't be bothered to show up and protest for you. Look at this supposed MAGA protest outside the courthouse. That was in Manhattan. You can find more people at a Duane Reade at midnight. Usually when there's this much space in Manhattan, it means someone took a dump on a subway car. There very much is a two-tier justice system in this country, but Donald Trump is not a victim. He's a beneficiary. Far too many nonviolent first-time offenders have been subjected to appalling prison sentences because of racist mandatory minimums. Trump, on the other hand, has had every opportunity to avail himself of the safeguard protections of the criminal justice system, and yet his supporters are acting like the judge gave him two choices.
Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted?
This has been A Closer Look.